Am I the asshole for not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day? I am 98.7% sure that I am not the asshole here, but if I am wrong, I am willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be 1 late this summer, so this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both my husband and me. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I did not want or need anything big or expensive. What I asked for was for my husband to get up with our son and feed him while I pumped and relaxed. Breakfast in bed, just toast, scrambled eggs, and coffee. For us to take our son to the zoo for the first time. This was the main thing I was looking forward to. To go to my favorite taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps, we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is about 30 minutes away, so I figured if we left as soon as our son woke up from his nap and ate, we would have a couple of hours at the zoo, and in the worst case, he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mother and my mother-in-law out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them. His mother on Saturday and my mother on Sunday. I also got each of them a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day as grandparents. I arranged everything and told my mother and mother-in-law that we would be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family. I sent a group chat which included my husband, my father, and father-in-law to make sure everyone was on the same page. My mother-in-law is very pushy and overbearing, so I did not want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, my father-in-law sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he had just had delivered and said something like, "It is going to be a busy weekend," or something similar. Apparently, he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a large yard with many flower beds. That night, my mother-in-law called my husband and asked him to come over first thing in the morning to help his father move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we were not going to the zoo until after our son's nap, my husband could go over and help for a couple of hours and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said my father-in-law was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all that by himself and that it was not a big deal and should only take an hour or two. I told my husband his mother was doing this to try to get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them, but he kept saying it was not a big deal, that his mother promised it would only take a couple of hours and so on. I think most people can guess what happened. My husband went over first thing in the morning, which meant no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed our son. I was somewhat angry, but I let it go. I spent time with our son, and when he went down for his morning nap, I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then, when our son woke up 2 hours later, I called my husband to tell him I would be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding our son. He told me it was taking longer than he expected, but that he would hurry. About an hour and a half later, my husband called and said they were not done, but he was getting ready to come home. It is a 15 to 20-minute drive from my mother-in-law and father-in-law's house. At that point, we had missed the window to make it to the zoo, so I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day since he had not done a single thing I asked for. I do not think there was any doubt in his mind about how angry I was. A little later, his mother called and said that since we decided not to go to the zoo, our son and I should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was quite upset and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home, ordering a pizza, and binge-watching Netflix. When my husband got home, he was very apologetic and asked how he could make it up to me. I was still angry and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mother and father because our son and I were going to celebrate Father's Day with my mother and father. Since Mother's Day, my mother-in-law has been texting and calling, but I have been keeping conversations short and giving very bland, generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do, but honestly, I do not want to bother. I know it is just a day, and we can celebrate any time, as we did with my mother and mother-in-law. But it was my first ever Mother's Day, and it is not like I asked for anything expensive or difficult. The only difficult thing is that he is incapable of setting boundaries with his mother, and she is incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday, he asked if I was still going to my parents' house and said he would like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I had not done anything for his father, he might want to go see him or something. We both ended up going to my parents' house and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day. My father insisted on grilling, as expected, but the weather was nice, and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck, playing with our son. I am not sure what, if anything, my husband did for his father. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day, I assume from his mother. She sent me a snippy text saying it was hurtful to spend the day with my family at the expense of my husband's, but I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy, so it is only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we did not acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I was just matching his energy. I admit that I have not done anything to de-escalate the drama, but I am still so hurt that he continues to prioritize his mother's feelings over our little family. This is not the first time his mother has done things like this, and I am just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I am getting better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries, but my husband is absolutely incapable of doing so. Commenter 1. Your husband has clearly decided that having an angry wife is preferable to having an angry mother. The very first time he knew his father had bought 300 bags of mulch. Goodness gracious. Does he own Rhode Island or something? Your husband should have said, I wish I could help you, but we have plans for Mother's Day. When his mother said it would only take an hour or two, he should have responded, our plans are all day. The mulch could have waited. Edited to add, thank you for the awards. They are such a surprise. If he can afford a yard that big, he can afford to hire someone to move the mulch. Also, your father will hurt himself is such a weak tactic. The original poster's husband should have replied, father is an adult and should know his limits. Original poster, tell your husband there is no making it up to you. He failed to keep his word and ruined an extremely special day. Your first Mother's Day is just that, the first. There is no do-over. Your husband needs to do better now and in the future. When he asks you what you want and says he will deliver, you should be able to trust him. Right now, he has shown you that, historically, he bends to his mother's will and places you second. What is wild is that he puts the planning of her make-up Mother's Day on her. Sure, he said he is sorry, but he has done nothing on his own to actually correct the situation. Continue to match his energy until you see genuine effort to change and prioritize you. Yes, he already had it extremely easy by being told exactly what to do in the first place. Every time he asks what he can do to make it up to her, she should respond, I am not the person who broke this, so I am not the person who should be responsible for fixing it. Her plans were so simple. He could easily recreate them literally any day. Make her breakfast. She needs it every day. Taking the baby out for a bit between naps? Yes, you can do that any day. Why cannot men even try a little? Commenter 2. This should be the top comment. The second they asked him for help, he should have said another weekend. Not the asshole. All you did was match his energy. I think that is what is great about Mother's Day coming first. Exactly. Unfortunately, when men are raised by narcissistic mothers, they are afraid to draw boundaries. That is why they need help from their wives to do it. Early in my marriage, I had to tell my husband, if you think I will stay in a marriage where your mother is allowed to mistreat me, you have another thing coming, buddy. I make enough money to raise our child by myself. You either grow a backbone and stand up for me and our family first every time, or be prepared to be single again. Now, you go speak to your mother about her behavior this week, or next week we go find a divorce lawyer. My husband got himself together. His mother does not even call him anymore to make plans. She calls me. That is strange but fine. She sometimes tries passive-aggressive behavior, but I know it is because I have the power, and she is angry that she does not. My family comes first, not her or her nonsense. I am the bigger dog. She mistook my kindness for weakness. She learned the hard way. Yes, self-centered, narcissistic tendencies are all over this mother-in-law. Original poster, it is important to talk openly with your partner about what you are seeing and how you two need to be a strong team and set clear boundaries for your mother-in-law. Otherwise, she will continue this pattern of poor behavior. Also, original poster, stop doing the social secretary work. Your husband is capable of buying gifts and making arrangements for his mother. Give that job back to him where it belongs. Stop caring if your mother-in-law likes you. You hold the power here. You are the gatekeeper to your husband and your child. You do not need her to like you. She should be worried about you liking her. Do not give away your power. You are doing a great job seeing through their manipulation. Keep it up. I just want to say that I was exhausted from doing everything, with a toddler and a new baby. And for once, I told my husband he would have to take care of his mother's birthday present because I was simply fatigued. It was her 60th birthday. He got my narcissistic mother-in-law a leaf blower for her 60th birthday. I get a dopamine rush just thinking about it. Commenter 3. This relationship is going to end in disaster if this man does not get into some therapy to learn to set boundaries. He has no idea how to fix this. Really? No clue? Yes, that is what gets me. What can I do to fix this? This is a man-child original poster. Either he distances himself from his mother, or you need to leave him. Some things you cannot make up for. You cannot redo a first Mother's Day, your wedding day, or similar events. Your husband needs to understand that. You chose mulch over my first Mother's Day is a pretty simple summary. Even writing it sounds ludicrous. People who grow up in emotionally unsafe homes literally do not have the skills to set boundaries and check in with themselves. Really. If you grew up in a house filled with the smoke detectors going off non-stop, and everything saying, "This is normal and fine," then, as a child, you learn to ignore the deafening alarm. You do not know what fresh air smells like. It takes therapy or other interventions to re-engage the obvious feedback loops that everyone else has. The original poster should not subject herself to being treated as lesser. However, her husband probably has also normalized this terrible treatment from his family of origin. He needs deprogramming, which is a lot of work. Commenter 4. Info. How did the original poster even get pregnant? Since her mother-in-law has her husband's courage. Yes. I love that Mother's Day comes first, and my birthday also comes before my husband's. At first, I would go all out for him, but he did not do anything for me, so I started matching his energy, and he did not like that. He tries harder now. You know what my mother-in-law said on my first Mother's Day? She said, "I have had my turn. Mother's Day is for the new mothers." Original poster. I am really sorry that your first Mother's Day was taken from you. Your requests were completely reasonable, and you have every right to be upset. I think matching your husband's energy is a good idea, but I also think you need to have a much bigger conversation about setting boundaries with your mother-in-law. Hint. It is your husband's job. Commenter 5. This is what I was going to suggest. It is time for a sit-down when feelings are less raw. He needs to understand this was intentional. This was their way of hijacking your first Mother's Day. If this is something they do often, he needs to learn to say no. I wish I had done that with my mother 35 years ago. Exactly. His parents did not buy 300 bags of mulch the day before Mother's Day by accident. They planned this. They thought they could guilt the original poster into bringing the baby over so the mother-in-law could have her grandchild for Mother's Day. I am glad the original poster did not go along with it, but she needs to open her husband's eyes to the fact that this was a deliberate act of sabotage. Commenter 6. Exactly. The husband had so many opportunities to do the right thing here, but he failed every time. If the father-in-law is such a fool that he will hurt himself by doing too much, then let him. Maybe he will learn how to work safer and smarter next time and to plan ahead better. Pandering achieves nothing good. The father-in-law is also at fault for thinking his son should spend Mother's Day shoveling mulch instead of spending the day with his wife and new baby. Last time I checked, mulch does not have legs, so it will not run away. Plus, they knew beforehand that the original poster and her family had plans. So, I think it would have been completely normal to respond to any guilt-tripping about how much work it is by saying they knew and could have planned it for a later date or that the mulch can wait a week. So, no, the husband's father is not going to get hurt. This whole thing is ridiculous. I know you meant guilt-tripping, but guilt-tripling is classic. I agree with you 100%, too. I bought 45 bags of mulch for our house and had it delivered. It sat on a pallet in my driveway for 2 weeks before we got to it. A lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine.